Ave Maria, welcome back to No Apologies. So having now just seen the evidence from the Church Fathers, we're going to move on to our third part of the Eucharistic series, which is to look at other historical evidences aside from the Church Fathers, which point to the reality of the true presence of our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament. So this is going to be broken up into 2 points, and the one is to just show some reasonable arguments based on historical facts, and the other is to look at some Eucharistic miracles revealing the true presence of our Lord. So today we'll look at the reasonable arguments, and all three of which have been articulated by Father Frank Cachone and Jim Burnham. And the first is that if we looked at history, we can see that all Christians accepted the doctrine of the true presence all the way up to the Protestant Reformation. So all the churches which broke away from the Catholic Church up to the Protestant Reformation, before they broke and even after they broke, still today believe in the true presence of our Lord. So in the 5th century we have the Nestorians, the Eutychians, the Coptics, the Armenians. In the 11th century we have the Orthodox. So none of these groups have ever been reconciled with the Catholic Church, but yet still today they all believe in the true presence of our Lord. So we can say that based on historical facts, at least up as far back as the 5th century, the true presence was a definite part of the deposit of faith. Now our second reasonable argument is that we believe Jesus was God. So as God, then He would know all things. So supposing that Jesus taught a symbolic understanding of the Eucharist, He would have at the same time foreseen that His whole church would embrace a false idolatrous doctrine called the true presence. And He would have foreseen that it would have been embraced because of His very words spoken in John chapter 6 and at the Last Supper. So why would Jesus then still deliberately use the language which He used, when just a little bit of a change or a little bit of an explanation would have prevented all of this grave error? So it's impossible to think that our Lord had overlooked this point, and it's even blasphemous to think that He made a mistake and goofed up in the teachings of His doctrine. So our Lord knew exactly what He was saying, and He meant exactly what He said. And then the third rational argument is that, again, if we were to suppose that our Lord taught the apostles a symbolic understanding of the Eucharist, and that then the apostles turned around and preached that same symbolic understanding to the first Christians, then we would have a difficult time explaining the actual development of the true presence. So if Christians were taught and believed in a symbolic presence, then the introduction of the real presence by a person or by a group of persons would immediately have been seen as error, and because of its incredible claim, would have simply been seen as unbelievable and would never have stood a chance of being embraced. So the only way for Christians to have believed and embraced the true presence is if they were convinced that the teaching came from God Himself. And the only way for them to have been convinced of this was that if it had been taught from the beginning, it was taught by the apostles who were taught by Christ Himself. So here we have three reasonable arguments supporting the belief in the true presence. One, all Christians who broke away from the Catholic Church before the Reformation still believe in the true presence today. Two, Jesus could not have made such a grave mistake in His teaching if He meant to be understood symbolically. And C, if He taught symbolically, then there really is no reasonable explanation for the development of the doctrine of the true presence throughout all of Christianity, all the way up to the Protestant Reformation. So thanks for joining me here on No Apologies. Ave Maria.